Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If you did not know, we are in Nutrition Month. So if you didn't know, now you know. And as part of our activities for Nutrition Month this March, we are having a chat today with Miss Georgina Self. Hey, Georgina, how are you?
Hello. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not doing too badly. Tell
Very
me
good.
one good thing that happened today in your life.
One good thing, I
Yeah.
did not crash when we were parking.
Oh, wow. And I would like to proudly say that I had a hand in her parking successfully. All right, so we're going to kick things off, but I would first like to let you know a little bit about Georgina. So, with over 14 is it, years of experience in the wellness industry, Georgina has positioned herself as an expert in nutrition, exercise programming, and even Reiki. So, we are having a chat today with a very diverse and elaborate professional in the wellness industry here in Barbados. Georgina, let's
Yeah.
kick things off with the theme today. So, our theme is fueling wellness, everyday food choices for a healthier you.
Mhm.
When you hear fueling wellness, what does that mean to you? If someone were to say, how can I eat to enhance my well being and benefit from the highest quality of life? What would your short answer be? How do we fuel
Sure. Oh.
wellness?
I think fueling wellness to me would mean nourishing the body as much as we can so then we can have enough energy and feel, I guess, enough joy, be happy, and have the body functioning enough to be able to be the best version of ourselves.
I like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, in that vein, what would you highlight as some of the common challenges that people face when attempting to eat healthier?
I think a lot of them would be a lot of the myths and misinformation that is out there. A lot of people say like the fat and not fat, like not eating fat or eating fat, is probably one of the biggest ones. So obviously we need fat within the body to be able to produce hormones and just normal functions of everyday life. So if we're not eating fat, then we're not getting that nourishment within the body as well. So I think that's probably one of the biggest ones that a lot of people will do, and then I guess like the low sugar, no sugar thing or cutting everything out completely. A lot of people will do that where they'll just cut out everything or like the 100-day no junk food things and all of that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people, they cannot sustain that. So to me, a lot of the healthy eating would be things that you can sustain. So if there is something that you're not able to sustain, then not doing that would be better for you than going cold turkey and cutting everything out.
Yes, absolutely. I like that you mentioned how persons maybe go too far into one extreme, like how,
Mhm.
it was an era at one point in time where it was low fat or zero fat, everything.
Mhm.
And then we kind of managed to work our way out of that. And now we've gone full steam ahead into no sugar or no carb, even.
Mhm.
And, to some degree, approaches like that may have some relevance, perhaps if you are
Mhm.
in a sport or you're doing some type of extreme dieting for a short term, like
Mhm.
maybe you're a bodybuilder. But certainly for general health purposes and trying to feel our best,
Mhm.
I do fully agree with you that we need to consider eating in a more balanced way and not getting so zealous
Caught
about
up in that.
villainizing any
Mhm.
particular food group or
Mhm.
macronutrient.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And then this segues nicely into food labels.
Mhm.
So I know, sometimes people go to the supermarket and they may or may not look at the food labels. They may or may not understand what the labels are saying or
Mhm.
understand, what some ingredients are. Can you talk to us a little bit about, the importance of food labels and maybe some techniques the average person can use
Mhm.
to make smart choices when making a
Sure.
decision about foods that are packaged and have the nutrition facts panel?
Okay. So when we're looking at a nutrition label, there's obviously a lot that's going on within the label. So, for instance, a lot of them are a little bit different with either how they're labeled or how they come across. So, some of them might have, say, like a portion sizing or a serving size, but then the actual container or the packet might not actually be that serving size. So, a lot of people will look at the, say, the calories and be like, oh, it only has 160 calories. but then that is actually only one serving size, whereas the actual container or the whole packet might be like 3 or 4 of those serving sizes. So I think that trips up a lot of people, especially in probably more like the weight loss, because you're obviously looking at that a lot more. But even for people trying to gain weight, I would say that that would trip them up as well. Because if you think, okay, well, I can eat like 5 of those, and then suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, well, I just like tripled or doubled my intake, right? The other thing would be making sure that we understand the carbs, the fats, and the proteins. So a lot of the carbs will then come under fiber or sugar. So if, say, the label says it has 19 grams worth of carbs, but it has 0 amount of fiber and then 19 grams worth of sugar, well, that whole packet is basically just sugar. Right? So it has no fiber, which obviously we need fiber within the body and within the system for digestion, gut health, and all of those sorts of things as well. So that would be another thing to look out for. And then the fats as well. So making sure that there's different types of fats that we can have. A lot of, I think, trans fats is generally not on labels because it's generally banned in a lot of countries. So you will have just the saturated fats and then the monounsaturated and the polyunsaturated. So we're looking for the total amount of fat, but then underneath that, making sure that we're not having too many saturated fats, and it's mostly the unsaturated fats that we're having. The other thing I would say is the ingredients. They are very tricky with ingredients, whereas sometimes they'll have really long ingredient lists, and then knowing that whatever is at the top or whatever is first, it goes in order of that. So however, if say something, you're having a smoothie or something, and it's like meant to be a fruit smoothie, but it has water as the first ingredient, well, that basically is all water. Like you're not actually having that much of everything else that's in there. It might be like 2% fruit or something like that, because it's like right down the bottom. So making sure that you're looking at the ingredients as well, because then that's going to tell you if sugar is like really high up or salt is really high up, then there's a lot of sugar and a lot of salt in that as well.
Okay, so they list them in order of amount. So whatever is first, that will be represented the most in the food item or the meat. Okay, okay. That's useful. And then in terms of, you had mentioned that with the carbohydrates, you want to look to see what the fiber content is and what the sugar content is. And then you said with the fat description, you want to see what the unsaturated fats are and the saturated fats. Can you differentiate for me, like which ones are good or useful versus which fats maybe I should be wary of?
Okay, so saturated fats we're wanting to limit as much as we can. And then the polyunsaturated and the monounsaturated fats are the ones that we would look to have more of throughout.
Okay. And what are fats useful for? Because you know, we not too long came out of this, let's call it a pandemic of being fearful of fat. So, but you're saying that, you know, maybe we want to prioritize unsaturated fats. So what would be the benefit to including those in our diet?
I think the biggest benefit, especially for women, because obviously our hormones change so much, would be hormones. It helps with our hormone production. So if we're not having enough fat, that's when a lot of people will start to have menstruation difficulties and issues, PCOS, all of that kind of stuff can start to come up. And then it does obviously help with men's hormones as well. But for the most part, for females, I think that's probably the biggest fearful thing for them. Whereas I feel like men probably not as much into that thing, but maybe they would be.
I mean, I certainly would like to
believe
that my hormones are optimized, especially, you know, I think, you know, as an athlete, persons who are involved in sport, they certainly will benefit from their hormones being optimized versus, you know, their hormones being at suboptimal levels. You know, especially when it comes to things like testosterone, which makes us inherently masculine and explosive and gives us drive and these types of things. Certainly you want to make sure that you are hitting optimal levels where that is concerned. And
for sure.
If diet can make or break that, then certainly we want to make sure that we're getting in
That's true.
our appropriate amounts of fat. So it's not just all about the ladies. Guys, we care about fat too, okay? But I do agree that the world would be a better place if women's hormones are regulated and optimized and they're feeling very happy. Everyone can be happy.
Mood swings, yeah. Let's do it for the mood swings.
I'm telling you. All right. So we often hear professionals talk about, you know, balanced meals.
Mm-hmm.
What does a balanced meal look like? And is it possible for someone to build a balanced meal and make room for maybe some of their favorite foods that might not be the healthiest?
Yes, as long as it is not all cake and lollipops.
That's a different type of balance.
If it's just cake, sugar, and all of that kind of stuff, probably not so much. But yes, if you like things like maybe fries or something like that. I remember us talking yesterday about having like, say, a burger with fries with a little bit of salad.
Mhm.
Then you're getting a little bit of everything and
Mhm.
you're able to then have the things that you like.
Mhm.
But I think for me, a balanced meal is making sure that everything is there. So you're having a little bit of protein, a little bit of fat, a little bit of carbs. And whether you have a little bit of salad, vegetables, fruit, and then a little bit of like the pasta or noodles or rice that everybody seems to like as well, you're having all of that balance. But for me, it has to have a little bit of joy. I cannot look at a plate and want to eat it without having a little bit of joy there. So I think for a lot of people as well, having that balance of having something that they're looking forward to. I don't know about you, but when I eat everything that I don't like first, and then I
Huh.
leave like the thing that I like
Save the
the
best for
most.
last. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you don't have that on your plate, then like you're not going to want to eat it. So
Yeah.
I think that's super important as well, is making sure that you have that joy on the plate as well.
Yeah. So basically, you're saying balance means some protein, some carbohydrate, some
Mhm.
healthy fats,
Mhm.
and some joy. I like that. That's the first time I've heard that fourth section. People say, a balanced meal means making sure you have your carbohydrates, your fats, and your proteins. No one ever says joy. So I do like this.
A little bit of
But then I think we understand that the joy can't take over the plate,
Mhm.
especially if it's not going to be necessarily nutritious or
Mhm.
salubrious.
Mhm.
Okay, I appreciate that. What did you have for breakfast today? I'm going to judge you now. Was it balanced?
I had, do not judge me, a cream cheese bagel with
Ooh.
capers.
Oh.
Yes.
Was there joy
Probably.
there?
There was a lot of joy.
Okay. I think
That was like all joy.
all joy. I think that also allows us to zoom out a little bit too, and we can start maybe considering that we need to view things across the day as a whole as well.
Mhm.
So that leaves room for people to have maybe a joy meal at the end of the day or at some point in the
Mhm.
day, and then you make sure you hit all of your targets and get in
Throughout the
those
day.
other macronutrients, your carbs, your
Mhm.
fats, and your proteins with your other meals.
Mhm.
Of course, these things are individual and people will have different needs.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate the idea that wellness is more than just the grams of carbohydrates, the
Mhm.
grams of fat. It is also your well-being and you feeling well and you having joy and a zest for life. So I think
Mhm.
that's a really useful gem to impart with our viewers today.
I think so.
Which brings me on to this other concept, which is kind of newish right now. I feel like it's a buzzword, but we hear a lot about mindfulness,
Mhm.
and now we're hearing about mindful eating,
Mindful eating.
right?
Yeah.
So how would you define mindful eating? And do you think it can change a person's relationship with food for the better, for the worse?
Mhm. I do think that this is coming up a lot more within, I guess, like more of that holistic approach to dieting and all of that kind of stuff, especially with a lot of people that maybe don't have enough time to be tracking or don't want to track
Mm-hmm.
the carbs and the fats and the calories and all of that kind of stuff. So I do think that that is coming up. I do think it can be good, but I do think it can be a bad thing as well if you're not ready for it. Especially if you are trying to like lose fat and all of that kind of stuff. If you're not ready for it,
You said the F word.
I did say the F word. I'm sorry. But if you are in that more mindset, then sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to do the mindfulness. But also if you have an underlying eating disorder or anything like that, which a lot of, I think, athletes and even people within the fitness industry, if I'm allowed to say that,
Guilty.
do have a lot of
Guilty.
eating disorders. And I think most of that comes from bodybuilding, to be honest with you. That's probably the biggest one that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so mindful eating might not be so mindful for those sorts of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it can also, obviously hurt us. But I think from a more holistic point of view, it can be a really good thing because if you think of okay, the body is very complex, I think, but very simple in the same way. as that you can start to think about food. So like this whole segment, everybody's probably thinking about food,
Mhm.
hopefully. So you're
I'm
already
thinking about a
starting.
cream cheese bagel with capers.
Sorry. Smoked salmon too. But we start to think about food and we start to get a little bit excited, a little bit happy about it. But our body actually starts to digest already from that moment that we're thinking about it. So when we're mindful eating, I think it's really important to think about that kind of stuff. Think about the energy that we have within our body as well. So if we're eating, say, with our hands, so like the cream cheese bagel was it was smoked salmon and capers, I could eat that with my hands. So I'm feeling the texture of the bagel. I'm feeling the texture then when it's in my mouth. Thinking about all of the different flavors. You get a little bit of salt, you get a little bit of the smoked salmon, you get a little bit of cream cheese. All of that kind of stuff is starting to happen. And my eyes were obviously happy to see it. So we start to eat with our eyes as well. So again, if we think back to what's on our plate, if it looks really pleasing and we want to eat it, then we'll start to digest it in a different way. So mindful as well needs to be the energy that we're eating it with or the emotion that we're eating it with as well. So again, if we go back to the eating disorders and stuff, if we're emotional eating, we're going to digest it a little bit differently as well. Or if we're angry, if we're on our phones, watching TV, whatever it might be at our desk,
Mhm.
whilst we're working, eating lunch, scoffing it down, then we're not going to digest it the same way.
I also see a place where if we're not giving or feeding moments mindfulness, it really does open the door to overeating.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you said about, savoring the food, thinking about the texture and the feel of it in one's mouth. I think if we were to approach eating that way and pay attention to all of the experiences of eating,
Mm-hmm.
we probably would be better able to determine when we are feeling satiated,
Mm-hmm.
which means feeling full, feeling satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes because we're mindlessly eating, it's a
Mm-hmm.
real easy gateway to overeating.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wake up one day and we say,
I
how
don't
did I
know
manage
how.
to get here?
I don't know how I put on 10 pounds overnight.
Yeah,
Like,
overnight. It was
it's
absolutely overnight.
always overnight.
So yeah, I think that's really useful information. Taking the time to enjoy the feeding experience in its
Mhm.
entirety, thinking about how the texture of the food feels in your mouth, what you're tasting, paying attention to the different flavor profiles. It's so easy to just eat,
Mhm.
especially if you're distracted, like you said, you're multitasking. So I really do like that. And I do see how that can allow a person to enjoy a meal so much more,
Mhm.
or even identify if a meal maybe is more salty than it needed to be.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
really useful information. Okay, so then let's go into another area that is, popular for persons to ask questions about. I'm a busy person. I have a really busy schedule. I feel like because of my schedule, it's impossible to eat in a healthy way. What is your take on that? And do you have any strategies for persons who have busy schedules for how they can eat healthy?
Mhm. I do think, yeah, these days everybody is busy, whether we're actually busy or just mindlessly busy. But yes, I do think this is where a lot of people will feel like they have to just eat fast food, and they, cannot actually eat healthy.
Mhm.
Whereas if we really think about it, when we're sitting in line for, say, KFC or, I don't know, a fast food outlet, sometimes you can be sat there for like at least an hour. And whether you're still working on your
If you're in
phone,
Barbados, you know how Warren's is. If you live in Barbados, Warren's is definitely a minimum of 1 hour wait. Not that I patronize any of the fast food joints out there, but just saying, just saying.
it's definitely times where you're like, yes, okay, if I just sit here, it can still be working or something. That's how I justify it anyway. Not that I patronize them either. But if we really think about it, if we were to go home and quickly make something, or even go to like a grocery store or a whole food store, depending on obviously where we are, you can get a lot of healthier options within that. So if we think about like meal prepping is probably the easiest way, taking your lunch with us. Some people might say that they don't have a fridge or something like that, or bring like a cooler with some ice in it. Like there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But I think meal prepping is probably, yes, it takes maybe an hour or two on the weekend. The more you do it, the faster you get though. And then you can also put those in the freezer. So again, if you're busy coming home at night, you're like, okay, well, I don't have anything. Maybe I'll just go to bed. Maybe I'll drop in at KFC. maybe I'll do something like that. But if you actually just have something already in the microwave or in the fridge, in the freezer, whatever, it's easier then to be able to just kind of grab it and warm it up or whatever.
Mhm.
The other thing I would say is, yeah, shops, cafes, restaurants, a lot of them do takeout. So you can drop in there, you can get something healthier, and then you can obviously move off a lot quicker than sitting in a line for a fast food joint.
Okay, well, now that you mentioned like restaurants, cafes, takeout, etc., if I go to a restaurant, can I get some guidance from you as to how I can make my meals healthier? I know that a
Mhm.
lot of restaurants, they do have like salad options and so on.
Mhm.
And I do know that there's a responsibility on my side to order the salad. But yeah, can you give a little insight as to maybe how we can make your typical restaurant foods a little bit healthier?
Okay, so let's start off by saying a lot of salads actually are very high in calories and
Okay.
very high in fats.
Mhm.
So that would be something to look out for. Not always is the salad option the healthiest or the most calorie um, dense food that we would want. So I think thinking back to wanting it to be balanced and all of that and having some joy, you can do a lot of different options of, okay, well, if we're looking at it from just a pure calorie point of view, if you're having like the burger or something like that with the fries, take some of the fries off and have some of the salad. So then we're having a little bit of everything, and then you're getting in some greens, you're getting in some fiber as well within that.
Okay, so maybe I could do the burger and the salad and not a burger and fries without salad.
Mhm.
Okay. I don't know if
Um,
everyone is going to agree with that. But I like that. That sounds
it's
useful.
hard to say when you're
The
ordering
burger
it.
itself is the joy. You
Yes.
can't have two joys. So we get
Mhm.
the burger as the joy, and then we have the salad for like our vitamins and minerals.
Mhm.
We don't need the fries too.
You can get some fries.
Oh, you can get some fries.
You can
How
get
many
some.
fries? 3?
Like a handful.
3 boxes? Oh.
Have a handful of fries on
Okay.
there as well.
Okay.
But the other thing would be like thinking of like maybe sauces, dressings on the salads and all of that kind of stuff as well. Like you can ask for those on the side as well. So a
Mm.
lot of the time, say a salad, if you are going for that, or like I don't know, my favorite thing is a quinoa salad.
Okay.
And I don't really like quinoa, but if you get me a quinoa salad, like it's just the best thing ever. So for me, then, if you're drowning that in salad dressing or sauces and stuff like that,
Mhm.
that then will bring a lot of maybe extra sugars or extra fats or something like that that maybe we're not wanting
Okay.
to balance that out. So if you're asking for those things on the side, then that can make it a little bit easier as well. A lot of sauces will have a lot of sugars and stuff as well. So if you're again asking for that on the side, then you can dip and see how much you want from that as well.
Mhm.
A lot of places will have things like wraps or sandwiches or something like that. Okay, a lot of people say, but I don't want the bread or I don't want this. You can always have like just a little bit of the bread or take the bread off and eat everything inside if you like really want to do that kind of stuff. But I think if you're thinking of the whole picture of that whole day, if the only thing that you're eating out or you're having out is that one meal, then you can team the rest of your meals around that. So then again, you can have that little bit of joy, and maybe you don't have to have the best options for that meal because maybe that's not, optional for you to be able to have the best meals, or maybe they don't have, the most healthiest things on the menus or whatever what might be for where you are. But then if you think of it for that whole day's perspective, then that should help as well.
Mhm. What do you think about the idea of using water to help control your portion sizes, especially if you are eating out? Do you think there's merit there?
I think so. If you're having, say, like a glass of water beforehand, then that can kind of help to fill you up a little bit as well
Mhm.
before you're then eating. But then if we take it back to the mindful eating as well, that should help as well to then keep that like knowing in your body as well and feeling within your body, okay, I feel a little bit full. And knowing that you don't have to, just because you bought it, you don't have to eat the entire plate or container. You can take it home, you can put it in the fridge, you can eat it later. So then again, you're only eating to that nice level of full, and we're
Yeah.
not getting too full either.
I don't know what it is that happened in our childhoods or what happens in the marketing with these restaurants, but you do feel this burden almost to
Hmm.
eat all right there. Like you feel like if you're obligated,
Hmm.
and then like if you're leaving and you haven't consumed all of your meal, you're kind of like looking over your shoulder, like, Is anyone judging me?
For leaving it back.
Who's disappointed in me for not,
I think
Yeah.
that comes down to our parents. I don't know if you ever got told, like, you have to sit at that table
It might
until
be
you
that,
finish your entire
It
plate.
probably is exactly that.
Uh-huh. Our childhoods have a lot to play in this, I think, as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, that is a really good takeaway. You're really not obligated to eat the whole meal if you end up patronizing a restaurant.
hmm
Yeah, and then that gives you the opportunity to have that joy that you left back the next day.
Yeah, if you
You know?
just have half a burger
Yeah,
and then some fries, you can still have some fries the next day.
yeah, absolutely. All right, and then here's an interesting question I have for you. How can people tell the difference between reliable nutrition advice and misleading information, especially the way how social media is set up and so on these days?
Mhm.
How can you tell the difference?
Yeah, I think a lot AI and the IG influencers have a
Mm-hmm.
lot to play in this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think looking at where it's coming from, so looking at the company, looking at a little bit behind the company of, okay, are they trying to push a product? Because a lot of people, if they're not doing their own research, which is fine, that's why you have professionals to do the research for you. And that's why you would then trust somebody. But if you're not thinking of doing the research yourself and you're just watching Instagram reels or something like that and getting your information from there, then you have to be a little bit smarter with it. So making sure that you look at, okay, is the company trying to push something? So they might then say it's like, I don't know, collagen or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All of their research is going to be backed by collagen as the best thing ever. And they're not going to look at the other options that might be available or the other things that you could be doing to be able to optimize collagen, because they're trying to push that product onto you. So looking at where the information is coming from as well and looking if there is a bias,
Mm-hmm.
you think would be the best thing. I do think, especially if you use ChatGPT a lot, you can start to tell when it's coming from ChatGPT.
Right.
So I can go through my feed of like Instagram and I can see the captions that have been made by ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
and they just sound a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the people talking, you can tell that they're reading from a ChatGPT script.
Yeah.
So I think using your brain a little bit with that as well. And maybe that's a little bit rude, but I think we have to start to question those sorts of things as well. Is like, does that actually make sense?
Mhm.
Because I have had people in the past tell me that they cannot eat blueberries because that will cause them cancer. And I asked them for the research. I never got the research, but I asked them for the research because I was like, how are you like coming to that conclusion, knowing the ingredients of a blueberry and like what it's going to give you, the antioxidants and all of that kind of stuff?
Mhm.
How are we demonizing a blueberry that we cannot eat a blueberry because it's going to give me cancer? So looking at that, if we say, does that actually make sense? Like, no, it doesn't really make that much sense. So therefore, looking at that research, would I deem that something that I would go by? Absolutely not, because it just doesn't make sense. So I think we have to start using our brain a little bit more and actually stopping and asking if it makes sense or not.
Yeah. I'm sure that you can probably find at least one study saying anything about anything in particular, because
If you work
that's,
hard enough.
yeah, that's just, kind of how the world of science works. And, there are a lot of confounding variables that can determine research findings. So we have to be very careful with that for sure. And, one study doesn't generate the right to make a claim about a thing as a whole. You would need several studies over several years, what we would call a meta-analysis, to really be able to get into that territory where we can start making claims. But I think I agree with you. People need to be a little more skeptical, especially if they're getting their information from social media. And you can always, line up what you've seen on social media with the advice of an expert. You can ask your doctor a question. If you have access to a nutritionist like Georgina, you can ask a question before you just, take information from social media and run with it. I mean, you're not going to necessarily decide you're a carpenter and go and build a whole house or something based on a reel you watched on Instagram.
I would.
So you would try that? So similarly, I think if we want to improve the way we utilize nutrients from our food, maybe if there's something that we discover we ask a professional a question about it.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Somebody that you trust.
Someone that you trust and that is qualified.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
So stay away from TikTok. TikTok is for entertainment purposes only.
I get so many of my clients send me reels and stuff, and they're like, "What do you think about this?" I'm like, no.
You see, but I applaud them because
I
they
do, yeah.
ask you, you
Thank
know, they
you
didn't
for
just take it and
sending
run
it.
with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. In what ways would you say small, consistent changes, because we often hear that language used,
Mhm.
in what ways can small, consistent changes in eating habits lead to long-term health benefits, in your opinion?
Okay. So I think one, if we're making small habits consistently enough, then we should be able to stick to those. So
Mhm.
then you'll get that compounding health benefit from it.
Mhm.
So whether it's something like a fat loss or cutting out a little bit of something else and adding in a little bit of, say, a fat or something like that, then we're going to be able to get those benefits if we can continue doing that for a long period of time. Whereas if it is something like we're just doing it cold turkey or making massive changes, suddenly cutting everything out or whatever else, then it is a lot harder to be able to stick with that. So we're not going to necessarily get the health benefits. You might for that week or two that you can stick with it, but if you cannot stick with it long term, then you're not going to get those benefits. So I think making small changes is going to be a lot easier. So then you will actually get those benefits as well.
Okay, so it's a question of sustainability.
Yes.
Okay, so you bite off a small amount
Mm-hmm.
and then you focus on chewing that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get consistent with that before moving on to another small objective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's very useful information. And then people often highlight that eating healthy is expensive.
Yes.
If a person has a tight budget, what recommendations can you give them to be able to try to improve their food choices?
Okay, so you think if you have the capital to be able to do it, trying to buy in bulk as much as you can is
Mhm.
going to help overall the costing of everything. Obviously, if you don't have the bulk, then okay, you might not be able to or the capital to be able to do that. But if you can, buying in bulk is always going to be a little bit cheaper. If you are lucky enough to be in the Caribbean, then you will have a lot of the food markets and all of that kind of stuff, the people on the side of the road and everything like that, that should be a little bit cheaper than the people in the grocery stores
Mhm.
or in the stores. So I think if you can utilize those, I would try to utilize those as well. And then, trying to bulk out the food as much as you can as well. So it might be adding in the salad or the spinach or something like that, bulking out a meal a little bit more, getting a little bit extra fiber and stuff like that to make us feel fuller. But then also thinking of like putting that within, say, the rice or something like that. So then again, we can bulk it out a little bit. It will stretch the food a little bit more. And then you don't have to be buying maybe as much food
Mm.
every so often.
Mhm.
The other thing I would say is making sure that you, say if you're, um, I lost my train of thought. Say if you're cooking for say like one or two people,
Mhm.
and you might not be say utilizing all of the food that you're cooking, then maybe doing like frozen vegetables, frozen fruits, and stuff like that, because then you're going to cut down the wastage that you're going to have as well. So I
Mm.
think a lot of people think that it's expensive because they're buying a whole thing where you can have only like that packet or whatever, but then they're not utilizing all of it in the meal. So if we're not doing something like meal prepping and putting it in the freezer, buying something already frozen is going to be a lot easier on the wastage. So then again, that expense might be a little bit less
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
well.
I like what you said about, us living in the Caribbean, having access to markets and so on. Do you think there's also some utility in the fact that because we're in the Caribbean, we have access to seasonal fruits and vegetables,
Hmm.
which you might be able to get, just from your neighbor's tree or something like that, and not
Hmm.
necessarily need to spend the type of money you would in the supermarket? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great thing because I do think that we forget about that. Like, I mean, our property has so many different trees and everything like that.
Mhm.
So there's always a case of you have an abundance of maybe say mangoes or something like that when they're in season.
Yeah.
Like before the monkeys get it, you
Yeah.
have a lot of them. So being able to, I guess, have that community as well of being like, all right, well, I have loads of mangoes, maybe you have lemons and somebody else might have avocados or something. So then being able to bring that together and, you know, I guess like that trade-off of different things as well. And I mean, obviously we have really great weather pretty consistently throughout the year as well. So then being able to grow your own things as well, I think is a really good way to be able to do that as well. Herbs, spices. I do not have a green thumb, so my neighbor does all of that. But the herbs, the spices, all of that kind of stuff should be quite easy to be able to grow here as well.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, what a great way to develop a relationship with your neighbor.
Yes.
You know, she has the green thumb, she has the herbs and spices.
Mhm.
You treat her nice, you tell her some nice things, and you get some of that, and you spent not 1 cent.
Exactly. Exactly.
So yeah, lots of useful insight there.
hmm
And then we're coming to the close of our discussion today. I probably will open for a few minutes for some questions from our viewers. We do have 60 plus people here and counting. So
Very nice.
big shout outs to our attendees. What would be one practical nutrition habit that you think our listeners today can employ from tomorrow to support a healthier lifestyle?
Why not today?
You know what?
Why not today?
From today, what was I thinking? Do not put off till tomorrow what you can achieve today.
Exactly. I think the biggest thing I would say, if they can do one thing, would be adding in something small or making a small change that they could do today. So it might be drinking one extra glass of water. Maybe it's waking up tomorrow morning and drinking a glass of water straight away before you do anything else. Maybe it's adding in a piece of fruit to your day. You know, one of my clients is doing that because she doesn't really like vegetables or fruits or salad or anything like that. So we're just working one piece of fruit at a time. So something small that you could change very quickly and easily. That's not going to break the bank. It's not going to change your entire life. But again, if we continue to make those small changes every day, then that compound health effect will come in.
Lovely, lovely. All right. I am going to take some questions now while we wait for those to come in. We'll probably take 2 or 3 while we wait for those to come in. I will share with our viewers who are Zest Wellness members something valuable that you may enjoy. And that is our voucher code for 500 points. So here we are. So please make a note of that and collect your Zest Wellness points. The code, if you are having a difficulty reading it, is Y, the letter Y, the letter U, the letter N, the letter P, and then C, letter C, N, the number 9, H, the number 8, and the letter S. Okay? One more time. YUNPCN9H8S. I'll type it in the chat as well. I don't want anyone to say that guy Ramon went along too quickly and I never got my points. I know you guys are very eager to collect your points at the end of sessions like this. So, I mean, making sure I take care of you. All right, there you have it. Enjoy your points. So I see a question coming in here. And this is from one of our good friends in Dominica. Georgina, what is your take on dairy consumption for weight loss, especially yogurt bowls?
I love yogurt bowls. I love like parfaits. I love all of that. So I might be a little biased here and say that I think they're great. But I do think you have to think of, again, that full picture. They're going to be mostly carbs and sugars, but generally for the most part, if you're doing it correctly or you're doing it the most nutritious way,
Mm-hmm.
then you should have lots of fruits and stuff like that in there as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it should be the best sugars that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of like parfaits and stuff might have a little bit of that fake syrups and stuff like that, or the jam and stuff like that, that is maybe not the most nutritious. But
Yeah.
I do think they're a great way to start the day.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could pair that with a little bit extra protein. Having a protein shake or something like that is
Mm-hmm.
like an easy way, I guess, to have that on the side, where you can put some protein within your coffee or something, depending on what you're having it with.
Yes, I
So,
like that. I like that. And then I'll take one more question before we close. This is coming from my very good friend in the Bahamas. Shout outs to the Bahamas. What is the best way around liquid calories from juices, sodas,
okay.
etc. for the sweet mouthfuls? So what's the best way to lower, I think he's asking what's the best way to, if we're watching our calories, what's the best way to lower those calories when we consider the sweet drinks and so on?
Okay. So a lot of smoothies can be naturally sweetened with lots of fruit.
Mhm.
So again, you can kind of lower those calories with that.
Mhm.
I would say try to think of bulking it out a little bit with the greens. So that's a really good way to get in your spinaches or your kales or something like that, which you might not necessarily want to eat.
Mhm.
But it's a really good way to bulk it out. So then again, you can maybe have a little less of the yogurt depending on what you're putting in it. Maybe a little bit less of those bulkier kind of items, a little bit less of the nuts or seeds or something like that. But if you're getting it from somewhere, then just having a look at the ingredients.
Mhm.
The fats are obviously going to be the highest amount of calories. So maybe looking at things that don't have as much, or having less of the like peanut butter and stuff like that, the nuts, the nut butters that you might have in them.
Mhm.
They're going to bulk up the calories very quickly.
Mhm.
So if we're having less of that and more of the fruits and vegetables within it, then that will be easier.
Yeah, what about sodas and so on for people who like love sodas? How can they manage their soda intake, or what choices can they make to kind of walk towards lesser calories if
Yeah.
they're, pursuing a low calorie approach, a lower
Okay.
calorie
The
approach?
lower.
Yeah.
Maybe having a soda water,
Mm-hmm.
or having like, you can get those like soda streams where it makes your water like bubbly.
Okay.
Sometimes that's a better way to be able to still have the fizz, because sometimes it might not actually be like the flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we really drink Coca-Cola because of the flavor of it? Probably not. Maybe it's sometimes like more of the bubbles and stuff. So maybe having something like that might help a little bit, or just naturally sweetening the soda water or whatever it might be with a little bit of lime or lemon or something like that. So you're still getting a little bit of a taste of something, but you're not then necessarily getting the calories of the syrups and stuff that you might be getting from like a Coca-Cola or Schweppes or something like that.
Yes, I get you. And one more question. I'll take one more quickly. What are your thoughts on fasting?
Such a loaded question. I don't particularly, and again, maybe I'm a little biased on this, I don't particularly like fasting as an approach.
Mhm.
I think it has its place.
Mhm.
I think for men, it is a lot better than it is for women.
Mm.
Women have to be careful of their cycle, where they are in their cycle, how long they're doing it for as well. So maybe a shorter fast is better for
So like intermittent
women
versus a hardcore
than
1
yeah,
week.
like a 1 week or a 3 day or something like that. Whereas I think men can get away with that
Mhm.
a lot easier. So some of my male clients would do fasting, and especially from a fat loss perspective, it works really well for them.
Mhm.
But their cycle is 24 hours,
Mm.
right? Whereas a female doing fasting, it's a lot harder for their body to be able to do that fast and have the same results as, say, a male doing it.
Okay.
So I think it depends on the sex and where you are in your cycle, if you're a female doing it,
Mhm.
and then I think the length as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. You're getting lots of hearts in the live stream, so I think they're appreciating you and what you're saying.
Very good.
So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. We had a great chat with you.
Thank you for
And-
having me.
Absolutely. And you left us with great insight on how we can improve our overall well-being and our quality of life through food. So we are going to say our goodbyes now. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I hope you enjoyed this discussion, and stay tuned. We have many more to come. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.